December 24, 2023. 11:47 p.m. Orion Starline's Flight 217, somewhere over Tennessee, cruising altitude 35,000 feet. The cabin is quiet the way only a red-eye can be quiet, the low, constant growl of engines, the occasional cough muffled behind a mask, the soft click of seatbelt buckles when someone shifts in their sleep. Up in first class, the lights are dialed down to a bruised amber. Champagne flutes sit half-empty on tray tables like forgotten promises. Amina Okeke sits in 1A, aisle seat, legs crossed, cashmere coat folded neatly in the overhead. She is wearing quiet money tonight, charcoal silk blouse, thin gold bangles that don't clink, diamond studs small enough to miss unless you're looking for them. Her braids are pulled into a low knot at the nape of her neck, exposing the elegant line of her throat. She is reviewing quarterly projections on an iPad, stylus moving in precise, surgical taps. The numbers are obscene in the best way. Orion is up another 14%. She allows herself the ghost of a smile. Then the voice. Ma'am. It's not a request. It's an order wearing politeness like a cheap suit. She doesn't look up right away. Years of boardrooms have taught her that power recognizes power by the pause it's willing to take. The flight attendant, name tag reads J. Hollis, clears his throat. His shadow falls across her screen. Ma'am, I need you to gather your things and move to the rear of the aircraft. Immediately. Now she looks up. Slowly. The cabin seems to inhale and hold it. Hollis is 30 maybe, blonde, square-jawed, the kind of white that sunburns instead of tans. His smile is gone. What's left is something brittle and hot. Behind him, half in shadow, the captain leans against the galley wall. Captain Eric R. McAllister, according to the name stitched in gold thread above his pocket. For stripes. The final word in this flying kingdom. His arms are folded so tightly the fabric of his uniform jacket pulls at the seams. Amina closes the iPad cover with a soft, deliberate snap. I'm sorry, she says, voice low, cultured, edged with Lagos and Princeton and 43 years of never raising it unless she means to cut. There must be some misunderstanding. This is my assigned seat. Hollis glances at the boarding pass she lifts between two manicured fingers. His eyes flick to the seat number, then to her face, then away, as if the contrast itself offends him. It's not about assignment, he says. It's about compliance with crew instructions. Captain's orders. The cabin stirs. A few heads turn. Phones lift, slow and sleepy, then faster when they register what kind of scene this might become. McAllister steps forward now. The overhead light catches the silver wings pinned to his chest. Ma'am, he says, drawing the word out like he's tasting something spoiled, we've had a passenger complain that you're making them uncomfortable in first class. We're moving you to economy for the safety of everyone on board. The beat. 2 beats. Amina feels the moment stretch, elastic and dangerous. She has been called worse things in better rooms. She has watched men twice her size try to stare her down across mahogany tables and fail. But 35,000 feet in the air, hurtling through darkness in a cylinder owned, on paper, by her own holding company, something ancient and furious uncurls in her chest. She smiles. It is not a kind expression. Captain McAllister, she says, loud enough for every microphone now angled toward row 1, may I ask which passenger feels unsafe because a black woman is sitting in a seat she paid for? The cabin temperature seems to drop 10 degrees. Someone 2 rows back whispers, oh shit. McAllister's jaw flexes. That's not. Because I own this airline, Amina continues, voice velvet over steel. I own this plane. I own the lease on the gate we left in Atlanta and the one we're landing at in Seattle. I even own the coffee you're serving, which, by the way, is terrible. She lets the silence land, lets every camera soak it in. So please, Captain, explain to me exactly whose safety is at risk tonight. Hollis takes one involuntary step back. McAllister's face cycles through 3 shades of red before settling on something mottled and ugly. Ma'am, he says through his teeth, you're creating a disturbance. No, Amina replies, standing now 5'9" in barefoot elegance, you are. The seatbelt sign dings on. The plane banks slightly, just enough to make the champagne flutes rattle. Somewhere behind them, a child starts to cry. McAllister reaches for the intercom handset beside the cockpit door. His knuckles are white. "Folks," he announces, voice booming through the cabin, "this is your captain speaking. We're making an unscheduled stop in St. Louis to remove a disruptive passenger. Federal marshals will board to assist. Please remain calm." Amina feels the words hit her body like thrown stones. Disruptive. Remove. Marshals. She looks out the window. Snow still streaks past, indifferent. And in that moment, something inside her quietly, irrevocably, decides they will not have the satisfaction of watching her cry. The cabin lights snap up to full brightness, harsh and surgical, like an interrogation room. Every face turns toward row 1 now, no one even pretends to sleep. Phones are fully out, red recording dots glowing like accusatory eyes. A teenage girl 3 rows back is openly crying, whispering, "This is so wrong," to her mother, who can only shush her and film. Amina remains standing, one hand resting lightly on the cool leather headrest of 1A. The cashmere coat in the overhead feels suddenly 1,000 miles away. She is acutely aware of how exposed she is. No security detail tonight, traveling alone because even billionaires want to feel normal on Christmas Eve. She had boarded last, quietly, hoping no one would notice the woman whose face sometimes appears on the Forbes list between Saudi princes and tech bros half her age. McAllister is on the phone now, back turned, murmuring fast into the handset. She catches fragments. Level 3 threat, refusal to comply. Yes, African-American female, early 40s. Each word lands like a separate slap. Hollis tries to regain control. "Ma'am, if you'll just come with me." "Touch me," Amina says, soft enough that only the front 3 rows hear it, "and every lawyer I employ will be on your doorstep before sunrise." A businessman in 2C, white, 50s, wedding ring glinting, suddenly finds his courage. "This is insane," he says loudly. "She's not doing anything. Let her sit down." Another voice, female, from the back of first class. "I'm a federal prosecutor. You escalate this and you're all going to jail, not her." McAllister whirls around, eyes wild. "Everyone shut up and sit down." The plane lurches again, harder this time. The flight deck has begun the descent into St. Louis whether the seatbelt sign likes it or not. Overhead bins rattle. A baby wails. Someone starts praying in Spanish. Amina feels the shift in the air the way animals feel earthquakes coming. She has seen this play before, just never directed at her. The choreography is ancient. Isolate, escalate, criminalize. The uniforms are different, the altitude is new, but the script is the same one written in blood across centuries. She lowers herself back into 1A with the slow dignity of a queen returning to a throne someone mistakenly tried to burn. She buckles the seatbelt, crosses her legs, and opens her iPad again. The quarterly projections are still there, glowing. 14%. She stares at the numbers until they blur. Hollis is sweating now, beads sliding from his hairline. He leans over her, voice a hiss meant only for her ears. "You think money makes you untouchable? You're about to learn different." Amina meets his eyes. "No," she answers, calm as deep water. "I'm about to teach." Behind them, the cockpit door opens fully. The co-pilot, younger, nervous, eyes wide, steps out holding flex cuffs, the plastic kind that bite worse than steel. McAllister nods once, sharp. The descent steepens. The plane tilts nose down, engines whining in protest. A woman in 3A starts live-streaming, voice shaking. They're putting cuffs on the owner of the airline. This is Orion Starlene's Flight 217. Christmas Eve. They're treating her like a terrorist because she wouldn't give up her seat. The video will have 40 million views before sunrise. Amina sees the cuffs coming. She places both hands, palms up, on the armrests like she's receiving communion. The cabin has gone deathly quiet except for the engines and the soft sobbing of strangers who suddenly understand what country they actually live in. McAllister himself steps forward to do the honors. His fingers tremble as he loops the plastic around her wrists. Too tight. Deliberately. The ratchet clicks echo like gunshots. Amina does not flinch. She looks straight into the nearest phone lens and speaks, clear and slow, so there can be no mistake later. My name is Dr. Amina Okeke. I am the majority shareholder of Orion Starlines. I have been illegally restrained on my own aircraft. Whatever happens next, the world is watching. The plastic cuts. Blood finds the edge first, a thin red line tracing the inside of her wrist. Outside the window, the lights of St. Louis rise up to meet them, cold and merciless. The wheels kiss the runway at Lambert St. Louis International with a violence that slams teeth together and sends unsecured laptops skittering down the aisle. It is 1:14 a.m. on Christmas morning now, and the temperature outside is 9 degrees Fahrenheit. Frost feathers the windows like lace on a coffin. Inside the cabin, no one moves. The engines spool down to a wounded whine. Blue and red lights strobe through the glass, painting every face in pulses of emergency. Ground vehicles swarm the plane like antibodies attacking an infection. A jet bridge groans as it mates with the fuselage, metal on metal, a sound like a scream swallowed halfway. McAllister stands over Amina, breathing hard through his nose. The flex cuffs have already turned her hands in angry purple. He avoids her eyes now, they all do. The cockpit voice recorder is still running, and every one of them knows it. The forward door opens with a hydraulic sigh. Cold air floods in, sharp enough to cut lungs. 6 federal air marshals board in a wedge, boots thudding, hands resting on holstered Glocks. The lead marshal is tall, black, maybe 45, face carved from exhaustion and disgust. His badge catches the strobes. Supervisory Air Marshal L. Carter. Carter's gaze sweeps the cabin, lands on Amina, lingers on the cuffs, then moves to McAllister. Something unspoken passes between the two men, recognition of uniform, maybe, or the older recognition of what is about to happen to a sister in restraints on Christmas. "Captain," Carter says, voice flat Midwest, "step aside." McAllister opens his mouth, closes it, steps back. The cabin exhales. Carter kneels in the aisle so he is eye level with Amina. Up close she can see the fatigue etched around his eyes, the faint silver in his close-cropped hair. He smells faintly of coffee and airport terminal. "Ma'am," he says low, for her ears only, "I'm required to remove you from the aircraft. I'm going to cut those cuffs the second we're clear of cameras." "I'm sorry." Amina studies him. In another life they might have been cousins at a cookout. In this one he is the only thing standing between her and whatever cell they have waiting. "Do what you have to do, Marshal," she answers, just as quietly. "Just know the footage is already everywhere." He nods once, stands, and the performance begins. "Passenger Okeke," he announces for the benefit of body cams and airline lawyers, "you are being removed for interference with a flight crew, Title 49, U.S. Code. Stand up." She rises. The cabin is a frozen tableau, mouths open, tears shining, phones trembling but still recording. Someone in coach has started clapping slowly, one person, then 3, then the entire rear section. The sound rolls forward like a wave. Amina walks the gauntlet of applause and grief, wrists bound, chin high, blood dripping a slow red rosary onto the carpet runner. At the door, the cold hits her like a fist. The jet bridge is a tunnel of fluorescent sorrow. Behind her, Carter murmurs into his radio, "One in custody, no resistance, requesting medical on standby." Ahead, 2 TSA supervisors wait with clipboards and the bureaucratic blankness of people who have done this before. Halfway down the bridge, out of sight of the passengers but still on airline cameras, Carter stops. He produces trauma shears from his vest, snips the cuffs in one clean motion. Circulation rushes back into her hands in a storm of pins and needles. The deep grooves in her skin look like bracelets forged from rage. "Thank you," she says. He doesn't answer right away. Just looks at her with something that might be shame. "They told us you assaulted the captain," he says finally. "Told us you were high, combative. I knew the second I saw you it was bullshit." Amina flexes her fingers, watches blood return to the tips. They're about to learn what happens when you lie on a woman who signs your bonus checks. Carter almost smiles. Almost. A black Suburban idles at the base of the stairs, engine running, exhaust curling white in the freezing air. The back door stands open like a mouth. As Amina descends the metal steps, the wind whips her silk blouse against her skin. Somewhere in the distance, church bells begin to ring for midnight mass. She pauses on the tarmac, turns her face to the sky, and lets the snow land on her tongue for the first time since she was a child in Enugu. Then she climbs into the vehicle without looking back. The door slams. Tires crunch across frozen concrete. Blue and red lights fade behind tinted glass. And in the silence that follows, Amina Okeke makes a promise to the night itself. They wanted a scene. They're about to get a reckoning. December 25, 2023, 1:47 a.m. TSA Holding Facility, Concourse C, Lambertus Lewis International Airport. The Suburban doors open into a loading dock lit by a single sodium lamp the color of old bruises. Wind howls across the tarmac, driving needles of ice that sting exposed skin. Amina steps out barefoot. Somewhere between plane and vehicle her Louboutins vanished, probably kicked aside by someone who thought billionaires don't deserve shoes when they're in custody. Two white TSA officers wait beside a steel door. Their breath plumes in the cold. One of them, badge-reading supervisor Kovacs, holds a pair of disposable slippers like he's offering garbage. Amina takes them without comment, slides freezing plastic over bare feet already going numb. Inside, the air is warmer but smells of bleach and despair. Fluorescent tubes buzz overhead. The corridor is narrow, painted that particular institutional green that photographs the same as vomit. No Christmas decorations. No music. Just the metallic echo of doors closing behind her, each one heavier than the last. They walk her past a windowed observation room. Inside, half a dozen men in various uniforms pretend not to stare. Airport police, FAA inspectors, two suits from Orion Corporate who flew in from Chicago the moment the live streams exploded. Their faces cycle through shock, calculation, terror. One of them, she recognizes him, Chief Legal Officer Daniel Rhee, mouths her name like a prayer. She does not acknowledge him. Kovacs stops at a thick gray door marked Detention 3. He swipes a card. The lock clunks open with the finality of a coffin lid. The room is 10 by 12, cinder block walls, steel bench bolted to the floor, a stainless toilet with no seat or paper. A camera blinks red in the corner. The floor is concrete painted glossy gray, still wet from a recent mopping. Her slippers leave faint bloody prints where the flex cuffs cut deepest. Empty your pockets, Kovacs says. Amina reaches into her trousers and places her passport, Nigerian diplomatic, crimson cover, on the small metal tray. Then her phone, screen spiderwebbed from when McAllister accidentally knocked it from her hand on the jet bridge. Then a single black Amex Centurion card that probably costs more per year than Kovacs makes in a month. He stares at the card like it might bite him. Anything else? She meets his eyes. My dignity, she says. But you people seem intent on keeping that too. Kovacs flushes dark red, slams the tray into a locker, and leaves without another word. The door seals. The light overhead flickers once and steadies into a merciless white glare. Amina sits on the bench. The metal is so cold it burns. She folds her arms across her chest, tucks her hands into her armpits, and begins the long, slow work of waiting. Outside the door, voices rise and fall. She catches fragments. FAA's grounding the crew. Corporates lawyering up, they want her released quietly. Pilots claiming she threatened to crash the plane, are we buying that shit? Hours begin to lose their edges. At some point a female officer slides a bottle of water and a cold McDonald's sausage biscuit through the slot. Amina drinks the water. She does not touch the food. She is not hungry. She is conserving energy the way her grandmother taught her during the Biafran nights when soldiers came to the door. Eat only when you know what tomorrow will ask of you. Her wrists throb in time with her heartbeat. The cuts are shallow but angry, rimmed with purple bruising. Every time she flexes her fingers, blood beads fresh. She closes her eyes and forces herself to catalog assets instead of injuries. The Gulfstream on standby in Seattle, the crisis team already airborne from New York, The quiet phone call she managed to place from Carter's cell before they took it, 3 words only, burn it down. The camera watches. She smiles at it, small and sharp. Let them see what a woman looks like when she decides the cost of silence is finally too high. December 25, 2023, 4:11 a.m. Same room, same merciless light. The cold has worked its way into her bones now, a deep, grinding ache that makes her teeth want to chatter. She refuses to let them. Instead, she sits perfectly still, spine straight, breathing slow and deliberate the way she learned in meditation retreats that cost more per weekend than most people make in a year. The irony is not lost on her. Footsteps in the corridor. Multiple. Heavy boots, dress shoes, the click of expensive heels. Voices arguing before the door even opens. Absolutely not. She's not being processed like a common. Federal hold, our jurisdiction until the U.S. attorney declines. Touch her paperwork and I'll have your pension by lunch. The door swings inward. Daniel strides in first, still in the same charcoal suit he wore to midnight mass with his family 6 hours ago. His eyes are bloodshot, tie askew. Behind him, 2 stone-faced partners from Cravath, white men who bill $1,800 an hour and look like they've never lost a night's sleep in their lives, flank a very young, very nervous assistant U.S. attorney who clearly drew the short straw on Christmas morning. Ree doesn't speak until the door seals again. Then he drops to one knee in front of her like a knight before a queen who's been dragged through the mud. Amina, he says, voice cracking on the second syllable. Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. She looks at him for a long moment. Daniel has been with her since the series back when Orion was 3 servers in a WeWork and she was still teaching herself to code between pediatric oncology shifts. He has never seen her bleed before. Get me out of this room, she says. It is not a request. The assistant U.S. attorney clears his throat. Dr. Okeke, I'm required to advise you that you're being held on suspicion of 49 U.S.C. 46504, interference with flight crew. The captain has signed a sworn statement. Amina turns her head slowly. The movement costs her, pain flares white-hot up her arms. Young man, she says, gentle as a scalpel, do you know what my retained tax rate is to the federal government? He blinks. Last year Orion paid $487 million in corporate income tax. That's more than the entire budget of your office. I am not your defendant tonight. I am your employer. Act accordingly. The Cravath partners almost smile. Ree pulls out his phone, thumbs already flying. We're filing emergency writs in the Eastern District of Missouri and the Southern District of New York simultaneously. Judge Hirsch owes me a favor the size of Manhattan. We'll have you in front of her by 9. Ise opens his mouth, thinks better, closes it. Amina leans forward slightly. Daniel. The pilot and the flight attendant. I want them in federal custody before sunrise. Same statute. Let's see how they enjoy the concrete. Ree's grin is quick and feral. Already done. Marshals picked them up at the Crew Hotel 20 minutes ago. McAllister pissed himself when they knocked. For the first time in hours, something warm flickers in her chest. But the door opens again before anyone can savor it. This time it's Supervisory Air Marshal Carter, the one from the jet bridge. His face is gray. He doesn't step inside, just holds the door and speaks to Ree. They're moving her. Ree stands. Moving her where? We just. Secret Service showed up with a priority transfer order. Signed by the Deputy Director of the FBI himself. They're taking her to the federal courthouse downtown. Now. Amina feels the temperature in the room plummet again. Secret Service on Christmas morning. That isn't procedure. That's message. Carter meets her eyes. I tried to slow them down, he says quietly. I'm sorry. She stands. The plastic slippers have split. Blood freezes to the floor when she pulls her feet free. Every eye in the room watches her rise like she's rising from the grave. Give me your jacket, she tells Ree. He strips it off without hesitation, drapes the cashmere wool blend over her shoulders. It smells like his cologne and panic. As they walk her out, past the observation window again, she catches her reflection, braids unraveling, lipstick gone, dried blood cracking at her wrists like war paint. She looks like something ancient and furious that someone tried to bury too soon. In the corridor, 6 Secret Service agents wait in Navy windbreakers, earpieces curling like parasites. The lead agent is tall, crew-cut, expressionless. "Dr. Okeke," he says, "this way." She pauses just long enough to look back at Carter. "Marshall," she says, "when this is over, you'll have a job if you want it." Somewhere the uniform still means something. Then she walks into the gauntlet of agents, barefoot and bleeding, and does not look back again.